G'day guys, Big Biss Horn and stuff. So today I'm going to tell you guys a story, which is a story about myself. It's a story what I done while I was in prison, and it's a bit of an insight into the way I used to live my life in prison, and the things I used to get up to. Now, what we're going to talk about today is the time I got my hands on notorious child killer Harley Hicks in the medical centre at Port Phillip. So let's get into it. G'day guys, Big Biss Life and Mayhem or Big Biss Haunted Stuff, they are both me. Okay, so today we're going to talk about some true jail stories that actually happened. Now this one I can talk about because it's something that I done while I was in prison, and it also gives you a bit of an insight into the way I used to live my life, especially in prison. I had a big fuck you attitude, and I stuck with that almost to the end. But, this is a story about myself getting my hands on notorious child killer Harley Hicks in the medical centre at Port Phillip. Righto, let's get into it. Okay, now I have said this in a couple of videos before, and I'm quite happy to talk about how corrupt Port Phillip Prison is in Victoria. It's a maximum security jail, and it is 100% the most corrupt jail in the whole of Australia. I am convinced. Absolutely, it is. And yeah, so that's what we're going to talk about today. So let's get into it. Okay, so like I said, Port Phillip yeah, is a really, really corrupt jail, and anyone that has been to this jail will tell you that this is a scary place to be. This is a place where I've witnessed and heard about people getting their cell doors cracked at night time by the officers, so people could get into their cell and get them. Like right up until 2018, they didn't even have cameras in this jail. Now, this is a maximum security jail that holds some of Australia's most hectic prisoners, and it did not have any cameras until 2018. So you could probably imagine how crazy like things were there. Like they were absolutely crazy, and people were getting unalived all the time, and yeah, and people ask me all the time why I use that word unalive. I use the word unalive instead of the M word, the MUR word, because sometimes using that word can get yourself in trouble and get your account blocked and stuff like that. So we just don't use it. So just letting you guys know that now. So anyway, like I said, no cameras, very, very corrupt jail. Now, in the medical centre, now also anyone who's been to Port Phillip will be able to second me on this. And so when you go to the medical centre at Port Phillip, so they've got like a screws desk, and in front of the screws desk, now screws are officers, in front of the screws desk, they have three cells here with doors on them, and then one big cell to the left of that. Now, the bigger cell is where the mainstream prisoners go, and the three other cells are where generally protection prisoners go, or prisoners that are either in a management unit or in the slot, the pokey, segregation, 23-hour lockdown. And so, also, anyone will be able to agree with me, and that right up until I think it was like the end of 2018, like you would walk into medical sometimes at Port Phillip, and there would be protection prisoners with the doors open, just sitting in the cells, and I heard stories of people getting their hands on certain protection prisoners, people that have bailed for whatever reason, or people that have done notorious crimes on the outside and go to protection or whatever. Now, I'd heard stories of people getting their hands on these people, and you actually hear it a lot. Now, on this day, I had walked in. Now, I will say that, so before Harley Hicks was a child killer, he was in mainstream. Now, he actually was in mainstream and then actually had to get taken out of mainstream because he made a false allegation against this guy at MRC prison when we were there. Now, this guy's name was Shaky Nick. Now, anyone that was kind of in jail from 2009 till 2018, you'll kind of know this Shaky Nick guy. Was a guy that couldn't stop shaking. He was the most quiet, just a quiet guy, quite sticks to himself and whatever. And so, anyway, this Harley guy actually made an allegation against him that this Shaky Nick had sexually assaulted him. And so what happened was they separated the two. They ended up putting Harley into the slot. Now, he'd done this so he could get bail, and it actually worked. So when he came in, he was only 18. Now, this guy's about 5'3". He's a tiny kid, mate. And when he was 18, like, he still looked about 14. And the reason I know this is because I actually worked in the kitchen at MRC, and this kid actually worked in the kitchen with us. Now, he was the biggest smart ass you ever met. And he kind of had, like, I won't say protection, but one of the older guys, I won't say his full name, I'll just say his name was Colin, and so one of the older guys, kind of took him under his wing and was trying to keep him out of trouble and whatnot. So that's how I knew who this Harley Hicks guy was. And so I already hated this guy for what he lied about Shaky Nick. Now, this is how easy it is to tell lies in jail, and the screws will believe it based on no evidence. It's not a court. They're not police. They just go on whatever they hear on, and then they just go off that evidence. And if you're unlucky enough to be in the firing line, you're going down. So anyway, I already had dislikes for this guy for that. And then, so anyway, I'm getting walked into, but I was in management at the time, so it's a unit at Port Phillip. It's called Borrowdale. So anyway, it's where you go after you get out of the slot. So they put you in there. It's called a management unit. It's where the naughty boys go. And so anyway, you have to be in handcuffs when you get taken around the jail. So I was in handcuffs at this time. And so anyway, I'm walking to the end cell, which was where they said they were going to put me. Now, in the first cell, I noticed Harley Hicks, right? And they didn't have the doors locked. And I'm thinking to myself, you know what? This is going to be the only chance anyone's going to be to get their hands on him. If he walks out of that cell and goes, and I'm able to get my hands on him, I am going to get my hands on him. And so, anyhow, I heard him call Harley Hicks. And so, behind the officer's desk, there's like a window in the wall there where they dish out medication. So if you miss your medication, they'll call you up to the medical centre afterwards and dish out your medication. So anyway, they've called him up to the window to get his medication. And then, so I've seen him walk up to the window and get his medication. He's getting his medication. He's not paying attention to anything behind him. And so when you get taken to medical or wherever you go when you're in management or in the slot of Port Phillip, you get escorted around by security. And so anyway, they walked off down to the other end of the medical centre to go get somebody else from the doctor's room and bring him back to one of the holding cells. And so anyway, it was just me, a female officer, and this Harley Hicks, and I just thought to myself, I've got to do something. This guy, guys, Google his name. It will actually blow your mind the way he unalived this poor child. And yeah, so anyway, Harley Hicks is his name, and it happened in Bendigo. And so anyway, yeah, he was getting his medication. He's looking down at his drink of water. You've got to have a drink of water. And so anyway, he's just gone to take a drink of water, and I just ran it in. Keep in mind, I told you I had my handcuffs on. Now this guy's tiny, and I've just ran up like that and put my hand straight up underneath his neck with my handcuffs on, and just fell straight to the ground with him on my chest and me pulling down like this as hard as I could. And I'm yelling in his ear, like, "You fucking dog, you fucking do this to a child, mate. I'm gonna unalive you. And like I'm screaming, but at this time I blacked out. You know what I mean? And so like I couldn't even hit this guy or nothing. All I could do was try and do something with my hands around his neck, or the handcuffs around his neck, how it was. So yeah, I had him on the ground, and this guy is screaming and screaming. So anyway, as soon as something happens in a jail, they've got these buzzers on them. Every officer has one, and they press that buzzer, and it has a GPS on them, and then so the other officers know exactly where they are. And so officers, if you're free in the jail, they all run to this incident. So like, a fight between two people can get like 40 officers there in under minutes, And so anyway, I see the officers that got me down to medical. They're running straight towards me. Now the female officer, she didn't want to do nothing, but they're screaming at me, get off him, and I just act as if I didn't hear him, and like I'm still saying in this guy's ear, I'm saying, you're fucking gone now, mate. You're fucked now. And so at this stage, I had him in the neck, around the neck for probably 30 to 40 seconds. And, the last 10, 15 seconds of it, the officers had me, but I still had my hands around that guy's neck for a long time. And so eventually, and also this guy is in handcuffs too, so he can't like swing at me or anything. So, we're both in handcuffs, so it was kind of, man against man, and may the best man win. And so, they eventually managed to prime me off, and this guy's in and out of consciousness. And I will also say again, guys, that this isn't something that I am, I don't recommend doing this kind of thing. I don't condone violence or anything like that. But at the end of the day, if this guy was in America, he'd get fried for what he done, But he's in Australia, and these kind of people get looked after in jail. As hard as it might be to understand that, that's a true fact. These people get looked after in jail, And this guy's in and out of consciousness. The officers have grabbed me, and by this stage, I've got like 4 security on me, and they're marching me back to Borrowdale, the management unit. And on the way, they're like, "You fucking idiot!" And I'm like, "Excuse me." They're like, "You fucking idiot! Like, why would you wait?" Until fucking you were in somewhere where there's cameras. They're like, if you had done that where we are now, where there's no cameras, and I'm like, yeah, but you wouldn't have walked me past him. I couldn't have done that. This was my only chance, And then so actually what happened, because they actually allowed me and the protection prisoner to be in the same place at the same time, they're actually at fault, not me, regardless of what happened. Now, even if this guy had got unalive, there's a duty of care that was not given there, even for myself and for that guy. And they said we would have let it happen, and I was kind of shattered in myself, but at the end of the day, I was near the end of my sentence. I'd done 8.5 years. I'd already been in for 6.5 years, and I didn't really want to catch another case and do another 15 or 20, that's for sure. As much as, those things run through your head. But, I'm kind of glad that didn't happen. But I'm also glad that I'd done this because, I actually was contacted by family of the person over this that said thank you for doing that. And, I was like, anytime. And, this is, once again, I don't condone this kind of behavior, but this is real life prison stories that I can tell because I've done this, So, guys, don't forget to like, subscribe, chuck a comment down as well, guys. I'd love to know what you all think. Once again, I don't condone it, but I do have a lot of crazy stories like this, and people have been asking me to do them, and I've kind of been holding back. But I've got plenty more to come, and my next one is also about another guy that I got my hands on in a similar situation. His name is Jason Noy, and he is convicted and also one of Australia's worst child hurters, I will say, but also a child was unalived in his case, and I managed to get my hands on this guy too. So, all right, guys, just keep telling me what you like, guys. Tell me what you want to hear about. Ask me questions. I'll make videos about the questions, guys. All right. This has been Big Biss Life of Mayhem, Big Biss Haunted stuff, real life prison stories. Thank you guys for paying attention. Once again, I don't condone any of this. Team Big Biff all the way. Let's mother, love, and